you need to have multiple streams of income. There's a graveyard of apps, games, websites that I build that have never seen the light of day, or that I put out there and they failed. But I think to my benefit, it was something I was doing for fun.
And that's when from 10 years old,
Yeah, so 10, 11, 12, building apps, building games. Yeah. And when you're starting the business, you need to do something called market sizing. You should always work to de-risk your position. You should work to de-risk your venture, because life is extremely unpredictable. I don't think anything worthwhile is achieved over a short period of time.
True.
I also don't think that anything that has a reward at the end of it will be achieved within, let's not even call it a short time frame, but within a few number of repetitions.
Good evening and welcome to the Late Night Business. My name is Ian Dennis and I'm quite excited about the episode I'm about to have tonight, because interestingly enough, I just discovered before the show, the gentleman I was supposed to have a conversation with is the youngest I've ever had on the show. I feel like I'm there. I'm just a few years older than he is. He's a gentleman who's quite successful in the field of fintech, and we're going to be discussing what exactly it is that he does there, what are some of the opportunities in that particular space, and what exactly he's managed to do in that particular space. But before I get to introduce my guest, I always like to remind you that you're here at the Capital Club, the place you need to be as an entrepreneur, because at the Capital Club you have a wide array of network and also facilities. Where we are filming right now is one of the meeting rooms, and there's so many different meeting rooms, so you can literally start and end your day at the Capital Club. And also something quite interesting, I know you hear me make a lot of dad jokes, but I'm also an author, and I just had my first book, or rather my second book come out. It will be soon at the Textbook Center, but you can always highlight me. It's called Food for Thought. And also my first book, Business Conquest, that was actually given a forward by the late Chris Kirubi. You can actually check it out. So there's so much knowledge that I want to share. The gentleman I'm speaking about is none other than Mr. David Nandwa, who's the CEO and CTO and founder, holds 3 different hats in the same company of Honeycoin, a fintech that's actually doing quite well. So Mr. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Ian. I'm so excited to be here. I know it's going to be an amazing conversation.
It is. I'm just first of all, I like your dreads. I wish I had hair. You know for me?
Don't worry, you can live vicariously through me.
Yeah,
I'm doing it for the both of us.
Yes, you're taking you on for the team. But nice to see you, nice to meet you. I knew about Honeycoin some years back.
Oh, interesting.
And actually before even this show, just checking out, some of the videos you did back,
yeah,
pitching, all that
and
stuff.
the journey, oh man.
And the journey, it's so interesting. I'm like, wow, your hair was not this long back then.
No, it certainly wasn't.
The first question I like starting all shows with is, what exactly are you most grateful for today?
What am I most grateful for? I'm grateful for the people I have around me, because one thing that you learn, especially as you build companies and even as you just go through life, is that it's the people. There's nothing you can achieve alone, and as the very cliche saying goes, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And so I'm very grateful for the people in my life at this current time. Yeah.
And how do you separate? Because I know there's always this particular saying that you put it out: go fast alone, go far. What's it called with others? How do you separate that? How have you managed to separate that?
It's an interesting question, because I think one of our mantras that has put us in this position as a company is we move fast, we break things, we iterate. We are not afraid of making mistakes. We are not afraid of making a decision and having to change it. But I find that it is that fast-paced nature in the short term and that compounding effect in the long run with the team that I've built. Right now we're about 15. And I find that is where the balance is. You know, move fast in the day, but over time, it'll actually just be a slow compounding effect. And what we are benefiting from right now is a power law, where the growth we're seeing is exponential. Doesn't correlate to the amount of effort we're putting in, but it's because we've been compounding that effort. And then I've also been compounding that effort over the last about 3 years that the company has been running.
Interesting. You say 3 years, so 3 minus 22, it comes to 19.
19.
So you started out quite early.
I did.
In terms of just venturing out, and before then you were part of different particular organizations.
Yes.
Let me just take you back, because you've achieved quite a lot at your young age. It feels so weird me saying that, because every time I walk, I'm the youngest. I feel like a grandfather right now. But I'm like, let me just take you back.
Yeah.
What's it called? Growing up, what did you want to be? And how are you able to literally, maybe your experiences growing up, why were they able to literally make you mature quite early?
No, it's a really good question. And I find that there's a cocktail of kind of different events and different things that I think I had in my life that just spurred me on this journey, and I'll tell you some of them. So one, I actually studied in a system called ACE, which is Accelerated Christian Education, and it was started by my great aunt.
I've heard about it. Where
Mikisa.
is that?
Yeah, so it's Mikisa. It's in Karen.
Yes, I've heard about it. Yes.
And so
that's what you did.
Yes, so I did ACE, and I mean, like that was the first system I did, and I only changed to Cambridge when I was doing my A levels.
All right.
But I will tell you the benefit of ACE is that what happens is you can actually plan your own time. So you can plan your own time, you can move at your own pace, which basically means like literally, if I wanted to do 2 grades in a year, I can. If I wanted to do 3, I can as well.
Oh, so it's not systematic?
No, it's not systematic, and you don't work at the pace of someone else. And so then to my benefit, I was able to move very quickly. So around 14, 15, I had finished my general education. I was thinking of doing A levels, started coding around 9, 10 years old. So whilst most of the conversations I would have with someone right now, they're like, you know what, I've just done my IT degree, now I want to become a software engineer. But no, and it's not actually about my journey. It's just to say, listen, if you want to do this, you will probably reap the largest benefits after 10 years. So are you really willing to do that? And so that was also something, just having that exposure. I'm very grateful to my dad, who is also in the IT industry, runs his own company. It's more on the hardware side of things. But I'm grateful because I had that very deep exposure to computers. Computers are all around me. And I was, first, it was more of just an interest. And like I was inclined to, I mean, I like playing games here, but now I actually want to know how they work. I want to know the intricacies of them.
And at what age did that particular interest pop up, and when did you start nurturing that?
Yeah, so I mean, the gaming, as a kid, you probably, you will game as much as possible. But like that's 7, 8 years old, just gaming. And 9, 10 years old, and my dad can vouch for this, that's when I kind of just went to him and told him, I mean, this is all fun and games, and I love it, but I also want to learn how to code, I want to learn how to program. And the most fond memory is like, I remember just coming to him and telling him, I want to become a hacker. And I want to do it because it's no, like literally a cybersecurity hacker. And that was the initial passion. And so my dad, he smiled, he told me, you know what, even if you want to do that, at least just start with an open mind. And so I started learning these programming languages over time, and it was more just to learn. And so I went through multiple of them and tried different things. I think the misconception right now, and I always really think about this every time we're building new products, every time we're continually building this company, is there's a graveyard of apps, games, websites that I build that have never seen the light of day, or that I put out there and they failed. But I think to my benefit, it was something I was doing for fun.
And that's when, from 10 years old,
yeah, so 10, 11, 12, building apps, building games. My sister can vouch to the torture I took her through of making her the first tester and the consistent player of all the games I built, making her test the applications.
So what kind of apps did you use to make back then?
Yes, so actually, I'll tell you the 3 that are very fond to me. So one of the apps I made was an app called Eleza. And the idea behind it, my grandfather, late grandfather, was the head of Kalru. He used to work in Kalru, Kenya, agricultural board. And one of the things that he used to deeply study is plant diseases. And I was unfortunate enough to be in his space when he was doing that. But as sort of like an ode to him, because I didn't even get the chance to meet him, I built this machine learning application using
How old?
This was 15.
15, you're already building machine learning?
Yes.
Here in Kenya, even at 30, someone... You can't! So at 15, you're already building machine learning?
Yeah, so it was an application that basically could predict diseases in plants using this thing called linear regression. Linear regression is basically when you train a model on a number of different images so that it can pick out similarities in those particular images. And so that one is very fun to me. I started building now e-commerce applications in not just in Kenya, but I was living actually in Dar es Salaam at the time, around 15, 16, 17 years old. And what was phenomenal is we were one of the only competitors for companies like Jumia. So you had already set up a company back then at 15? So I have 2 exits under my belt, and Honeycoin is the 3rd one. Although I have other micro exits. A micro exit is like there's this thing called an indie hacker, someone who just builds these apps and then you'll probably sell it for like some liquidity. Could be 20, 50, $100,000. And then there's of course now, let's call it a comfortable exit, where if I sell an app for $1 million or $500,000, it's the kind of money that will just give me this base. You know, it's like a return. Exactly. And so I had 2 notable exits and then a bunch of different micro exits along the way.
Interesting.
And in that,
sorry.
No, I was just going to say, in that period of time, you know, after building and after just actually just, you know, embedding myself there, I think one of the most critical things in my journey is when I was in Tanzania, I met the CEO of a venture studio. And so he, you know, we went to the same church. He saw what it is that I was doing. And I just came up to him and told him, listen, I love building apps. I have all of these apps that I've built. I can send you direct links. And what I want to do for you is I don't want to work for you, but I want to build apps. I want us to scale them and find an acquirer or a client for those particular applications. Because I'll tell you the thing that I realize most entrepreneurs do, which is broken. They build the solution without starting with the problem. And it's very easy to identify the problem if you know what actual thing you are trying to solve for, optimize for. It's like in math, they're telling you to find X and you only know Y and Z. But most people go to the other side of the equation. So I know Y and Z, let me just put them together. And so, and so those experiences were so crucial, I think, to my journey.
One thing that I'm picking up from your journey was that your parents have been very crucial in terms of just enabling you, first of all, to enroll for that particular system that's very flexible. I've heard about it and I'm like, no, now I'm also getting particular perspectives around it. But when you look back in terms of, what's it called, where your journey started, what are some of the lessons that you can say that you learned from your dad that actually enabled you pivot in terms of entrepreneurship journey?
I think one of the biggest things I've learned from, let's say, my dad and even my mom is you need to have multiple streams of income. My dad always says that. And I think the beauty of applications is, even right now, the way Honeycoin is set up, we have a business arm of, you know, the company, and we have a consumer arm. And that's just, within that, we'll have a subset of features around flights, banking, payments, and on the business side, we are doing treasury management, payment processing, and all of those things. And the reason our strategy is that way is coming from the advice that I received from my dad, my mom, growing up. It's that you should always work to de-risk your position. You should work to de-risk your venture, because life is extremely unpredictable. Some businesses existed today, tomorrow they're dead.
True.
So you need to create that safety net, and the people who do are the ones who survive. And it's not just that you will do it within tech. You know, I'm also just fascinated about business in general. So I have investments across multiple industries, whether it's SME financing, whether it's actually just investing in other companies that I believe in that could actually become big. And a lot of that is just from the perspectives that I've gotten from them growing up. And I think the second one that I'll mention is compound effort. I don't think anything worthwhile is achieved over a short period of time.
True.
I also don't think that anything that has a reward at the end of it will be achieved within, let's not even call it a short time frame, but within a few number of repetitions. You have to be so intentional about just staying locked into the journey. It's never the destination. Because if I was building Honeycoin right now and I was thinking, I'm seeing $100, $200 million of worth of an exit, and that's all I'm doing every single day, working towards that money, I don't think we'd be here.
True.
And I think that compound effort, that just trusting, not only in the process, but in the fact that anyone who plays long-term games will always win.
True.
Because a lot of people are just playing these short-term games.
That's very, very interesting insights. So, what's it called? Just back to your journey. So, at what point now did you finish your, preliminary levels?
Yeah. So I was already working, as you know, like I mentioned, 15, 16, I was building up to this venture studio. Yeah, 15, 16, I was done. And so now...
So 15, 16, you're done?
Yes.
Hey, for me, I was still in Form 2.
And that's okay,
still going for panties. The challenge of 8 for 4. I get you.
This is always a shout out to a C, because I find that non-traditional plan your own time, it has its benefits for someone who's a self-starter. It also has its negative for someone who needs that environment, hive mind, and so on and so forth. But yeah, so after that, I'm essentially in this period where I have some liquidity. I've built apps, built solutions that are scaling now to not thousands, but hundreds of thousands of users, generating hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue. And to me, now I'm just thinking, okay, what's next for me? And the reason I then started to look at, okay, let me just keep doing this, but I also want to be involved with companies. Because I think the best way to venture into an industry is first work with
Someone
work
in the
at
industry, yes.
industry experts, people who've been there. They're
Yeah.
doing that consistently.
Yeah.
And so fast forward, let's say, okay, even before that, right after finishing my S levels, started my degree. Majority of it was actually distance learning.
Or did it abroad?
No, I did. So it was hybrid. So the benefit of art in university is you can actually do remote courses. So I basically did majority of it hybrid. By the time I was now finishing it, when I actually went to the UK.
Yeah. So you did them here in Kenya?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. And the decision to do that was also, I think for me, from the perspective of I did not want the focus and just the, I'll call it the social, not social, but like technical capital that I've built to then go and be wasted away, because a lot of people actually get lost in university. There's so many distractions. And so even my parents were like, no, you have to experience, you know, you have to have the uni experience. And I told them, I don't think there's any value I would get by being in a physical campus with other people when I already have people that I'm socializing with. And so choosing to do that is also what then allowed me, fast forward about 2019, start working with Flutterwave. And I was working as a developer expert. This is basically just a contractual role where we kind of like work to improve, optimize SDKs and integrate them with like different companies. So you would come in and say, we don't have any technical people. So you come to me and I say, yeah, sure. We'll just build out the solution for you and we'll deploy it for you as well. In that same period of time, actually before Flutterwave, worked with Nandwa on
Nandwa was the company that used to outsource guys in tech.
Software engineers, pretty much like a tech shop of sorts, And so with Nandwa, it was more on initiatives, because one of the things I'm really passionate about is developer upskilling. And so what we'd do is we actually build different solutions, different kind of like small micro projects as part of a program called GADS, which is like a Google Africa Developer Scholarship. And then we would mentor developers, mentor software engineers, and then help place them in companies that they want to work at.
Interesting.
And so, and the reason for that, and I think I always deeply think about, you know, Andela's motto, which is very true, which is that talent is evenly distributed, but opportunity isn't. You have someone who is extremely talented, but never gets the opportunity. And if you just give them that opportunity, you start to see someone who literally had everything, but they just weren't, no one was paying attention to them.
Interesting. And you mentioned also something earlier on that I'd also like to touch on too, like you got involved with this particular, what's it called, venture capitalist, you built in some businesses and then you exited them. So at what age, was this, and primarily what did you learn about exiting? Because I know that's one of the biggest challenges most entrepreneurs face. How do I exit? Most people are so attached to their businesses. But for you, how did you manage to do it?
So I'll actually tell you that, so working in the venture studio was just...
So that was in Dar es Salaam?
Dar es Salaam, yes. But I was still building my own applications. Working in the venture studio was just pretty much that I had a lot of free time. I wasn't working, and I was primarily just doing this. But what I will say about exits and what I will say about exit strategy is it's not that you will be focused on that goal. But when you're starting the business, you need to do something called market sizing. You need to actually say, what is the TAM, total addressable market, of this business that I want to start? And so studying numbers like, for example, Google and the IFC released a report that the internet economy in Africa alone by 2025, 2026 is set to hit $180 billion in Africa. And then you start to study things around how Africa is the fastest growing population, which has the highest percentage of young people. And those things are, I'll call them general biases, but they're very important. Because what it allows you to do is then now when you've gone to the high level of what I want, which market I want to be in, so you say it's Africa. Then you have to decide what demographic you want to serve. So you say it's, let's say, people aged 18-25, or it's businesses, SMEs. The next thing you have to do is then say, okay, what is the problem that I'm solving? It could be around that the transparency when it comes to giving loans to SMEs is just not, it doesn't exist. So I want to build a solution to help get better access to credit for these SMEs so they can scale. Once you've decided that you know what the problem is, then you have to now say, listen, when I hit this number, which could be 10, 20, $50 million, that's when I'll be comfortable with exiting the business. Or this revenue amount, that's when I'll leave the business on autopilot, hire a team, bring in a team. I brought the company to this position, and then let them, you know, kind of like run on with it. And I think that framing is very important. It's not that you will now every day be thinking, I said I'm going to exit this for $50 million. I said I'm going to exit this for $100 million. And that's what you're kind of constantly running in your head. I think the most crucial aspect of that is you literally would start with the goal in mind, and it's so easy to plan towards that then. Because then now what you're doing is you can now break those time frames into years, months, weeks, days, meaning if I want to exit for $10 million, I probably would need to raise maybe $1 million to get me to like a revenue amount where I can exit for that multiple. Because one thing entrepreneurs don't realize, venture capitalists invest in an opportunity.
True.
They don't invest in the finished product. So when someone is saying that I'm going to invest in your company and you'll probably exit this later on, they're investing typically at a 10x multiple. So 10x revenue multiple is like if you're making $1 million a year in ARR, at annual recurring revenue, then I'm going to say that your business is kind of worth $10 million.
Yes.
Because someone who's an acquirer, they come in, they'll keep this business and perpetually they will have it. And valuations have dipped now because of, there's a lot of macroeconomic factors towards it. And so typically now it's like a 4 or 5x multiple, even depending on the industry. But the important thing is when you're starting your business, whatever the valuation for that business would be, start there. And then start to then plan out in very, I'll call it focused bursts, what it is that you'll need to achieve in this. It could be in the quarter, could be in 6 months, could be in a year. And those achievements, those incremental kind of like building on what you've already started, it's almost as if it feels natural that you'll get to the exit, but it's also because you've been very methodical. And I find that's what a lot of folks don't do.
Interesting. So on that particular point, you're going to take a short commercial break, and then when you're back, there's so much you want to just literally get to explore about this particular market, the fintech industry, and then after that, what exactly Honeycoin is. See Asali, Honeycoin. So I'll see you after the break. So welcome back to the show. Before we went on a break, we we're just discussing all these particular aspects about the fintech industry, and just Nanda just taking us through how his journey has been and how he's managed to do it quite young, and you're quite insightful.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Something interesting. So before we went on a break, we were discussing about the exit strategy and the plan around it. Also, another key factor towards the aspect of entrepreneurship is the pitching.
Yes.
Pitching for these particular opportunities to get this particular investment.
Yeah.
Before I started this show, just trying to check out what's it called, your videos I've done before. I came across a video you're pitching for Honeycoin.
Yes.
I think it was like 2 or 3 years back.
Yes.
That's an interesting pitch. I think with some jungus here and there.
Oh yeah. I think that was a pioneer pitch. That was about 3 years ago, because that was in 2020.
So first of all, take us through what is Honeycoin, what is the idea behind Honeycoin,
Yes.
and then we get into the aspects of pitching.
I will. So I'll tell you very simply. At Honeycoin, we are...
the name first of all, Honeycoin?
Yeah, so that's an interesting story. So when I was coming up with what I wanted to build, I knew it was centered around moving money and managing money. And so I was thinking about all these solutions like Move or calling it Transact, or something. But most of those names are trademarked or just were not available. And I'm on a table eating breakfast with my sister, and I'm explaining to her, I just want it to be something like, we want to make the experience for people managing and moving their money sweet, painless, just a very refreshing experience. And she says the name Honeycoin. And no, she says something coin. I can't remember exactly what she said. And then I say honey coin. And then she repeats it and she's like, Honeycoin, that's actually a cool name.
Ah, interesting.
And I was like,
Was honey part of the breakfast?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. We're eating pancakes.
Oh,
but maybe, I would have been jam or something.
Jam coin.
Yeah, and so the name stuck, and it's really grown on me over time. And now we have like this separate brand, which is Peer. And a lot of these names actually come out of those just very random moments. Like when we're thinking about Peer, which is our consumer platform. And I'll jump back to telling you what Honeycoin is as I just digress a bit. It was, the way that I kind of like was ideating around the name is we've built consumer solutions for 3 years. But one thing that we've deeply understood is when it comes to payments, it is rarely about a figure, a number, a metric. It is always about the people behind those payments. And that is why our slogan for Peer is because payments are less about money, more about people. And then now when you start to think about the name, it's like, what are we? We're like a peer-to-peer app. People can make P2P transfers, but then we're also building a lot more solutions on top of it. And so when we're thinking about P2P and we're thinking about transactions, Peer just really resonated because it's short, like Uber, Airbnb, or Spotify. And it's catchy as well, because when you think Peer, you're thinking this is my friend, partner, family member. And so that's why we then went on that journey. But let me track back and just tell you, So at Honeycoin, we are focused on building better financial technology for consumers and business because we deeply believe that both industries, both demographics have been served a really stale experience so far. You look at the banking, loan, business platforms, you look at remittance solutions. In Africa, there's not a lot of optimization or even investment in just crafting really, really good applications.
Break it down for me like a case study, because I understand tech,
Yes.
I understand everything, but there's someone out there,
Yes.
when you mention peer-to-peer, primarily they may not have that particular understanding.
Yes.
Just give me a case, probably a case study or a case situation.
Of both sides, yeah?
Yes, of both sides.
I will.
What exactly it is the solution that as Honeycoin you provide?
Yes. So I'll tell you on the consumer side and I'll tell you on the business
Yes.
side. On the consumer side of things, what we are is a financial super app. This basically means that similar to M-Pesa and how they try to do different services, we've gone the same approach, only we have a more embedded flow. So what that means is you can go on the application and deposit your Kenyan shillings and you can make dollar investments in stocks, ETFs. You can also then deposit those same shillings, use them to book a flight anywhere, 150
So through
countries.
the Honeycoin app?
Through the app, through the peer application. Peer is our consumer
Yes.
side. You can also activate a real bank account locally and then get also a US bank account.
Through
then-
Honeycoin?
Yes.
So I can be in Kenya and I can have a US bank account?
Exactly.
And it can be activated?
Yes, and it can work directly. You can invest, you can store your money in USD, which is a very big value prop of ours.
And how do you do that? And you're not a bank. Do you have partnership with banks?
We have partnerships. So we have very deep partnerships with some of the largest e-money and remittance institutions. For example,
So money won't disappear?
Money won't disappear. One, it's secure. And we work directly with these partners. We are approved by the regulators in the markets that we work with to have these partnerships. One of those partnerships is we are the first African wallet to partner with MoneyGram in over 150 countries to actually enable you to walk into a bank. You could go to KCB, Equity Bank, Diamond Trust, whatever. Literally deposit, give them cash, and you get like an instant deposit into your peer wallet, your Honeycoin wallet. And a lot of these solutions are in a single application. So it's almost as if we took the things that we saw were very broken about finance and financial technology for retail customers, and we consolidated it, but not in a way that it feels overwhelming, but in a way that it's the same thing as if you go to Carrefour and you go to Sari Center, what you're getting from Sari Center
You
is
said
it's a
Carrefour,
mall.
me I say Carrefour.
Potato, right?
Yeah, which one is right? Which one is
I don't know.
And some say
Carrefour. Well,
Carrefour.
if you go to Carrefour,
It
then
depends.
if you go to Carrefour, then you have a supermarket. But Sari Center is a mall, meaning you have all of these services in one.
True.
And I'll typically not go to a supermarket if I wanted a variety.
Yes.
I'd go to a mall.
Yeah.
And so the best way to describe us is we're a mall for your finance and lifestyle needs. And on the business side of things, it's a lot more boring, but it is extremely impactful because we are actually serving real businesses, processing millions of dollars every single month for them. And the solution that we provide is it's pretty much a treasury management and payments platform.
So treasury management, that means in terms of investment in treasury bills? Or?
No, that means treasury management is like I'm a startup and I have operations in 5 African markets, but I only have incorporation in the US. We help you scale into those markets, connect directly to the payment infrastructure to be able to collect payments, disburse, so you can pay for your receivables, you can pay for your invoices, you can do cross-border payments directly on the platform and through our regulated partners. Yeah.
So primarily meaning that I've incorporated a company here in Kenya, but I have quote-unquote, offices in the US,
yes,
in UK.
or you buy goods and supplies from China,
Yeah.
and we have a actual infrastructure to help you then send out that payment and have it received in real time. And a lot of what we're innovating.
Through the local currency or through the foreign currency?
No, so you can go from KES to renminbi. Renminbi is like the Chinese digital currency. Or you can go from KES to euros in over 27 European countries directly on their platform. So as a business, it's literally like, okay,
so you
I want to
Forex in between?
Yes. So we handle FX and liquidity, but we handle it in an embedded way. So it's fully programmable and you see the quotes in real time and then you literally just key in what you want to do. So we've had startups come in and run their payroll directly on us because it's very simple to just upload a CSV, have it disbursed to all my employees in Kenya, Nigeria, India, wherever on a single platform.
That's quite interesting.
It is, and I think one of the things.
Huge.
Yeah, I appreciate
the
it.
magnitude.
Yes, and it's a massive problem because the thing that has slowed down payment innovation is fragmentation. That is that you have a lot of different markets, all with their nuances, and no one is working to connect all of them. There are players that are trying to do that, but they'll go for a subset of the problem, which could be payment processing. Another will go for a subset of the problem, which could be remittance. What we found is the subset of the problem that we're going for is just that this liquidity across multiple markets, these payouts that need to happen, you should not need to use 3 platforms to literally have a connection to the world. You should be able to connect the world and the world's financial system in a single platform, and that's us.
Interesting. From the video just talking about earlier on, seeing you pitch, and I think it was an interesting pitch. And I'm sure you've done it quite a lot. I think we were discussing this earlier on before we started recording. Before you get an investor on board, you tell me before you get an investor, you must have pitched around 200 investors.
Yes. To close around, yes.
To close around. First of all, what have been some of the insights you've learned through your journey in terms of getting a successful pitch across? Yes.
So I think raising a successful round takes patience and I'll call it a deep level of organization. So organization from the perspective of I have a flow and I have a structure and a workflow that I'm going to start and close this round. And even if the round doesn't close at the end, I will be very methodical so that I know why. Because we've gone into the market at one time and I wanted to raise money and we just kept getting no's. And then so what I then did is, because I had a very methodical approach, the one piece of advice I would give people is if you document everything, it becomes your mentor at the end. I'll explain what I mean. If I pitched to 100 investors and I got 99 no's and 1 yes, there's probably something wrong with my pitch or probably something wrong with my company. But I won't know what is wrong.
Something wrong with the investor?
Well, that's the problem, because you see, they're just giving money. And sometimes it is, and you have investors who say, listen, we got it wrong. Like I could have invested in Airbnb, but I didn't. I could have invested in Coinbase, I didn't. But the one thing I realized as a founder, you should never take it personally. Because what happens is if I look at the 99 no's, and what I see is they keep saying, I don't understand the business. I don't understand the business. I don't understand the business. If you have that data, what you start to realize is maybe I'm just not pitching it well.
Right, yeah.
I could tell you that we are building the financial system for the future for businesses and consumers. Or I could tell you something like, we're building the everything app for consumers so that they can do everything in a single application. This one sounds compelling. And if I just tell you, oh, we're building a fintech application that could solve the world's problems. Just those two things is what I could get if I'm collecting feedback. And so, number one, methodical approach. That is what a successful pitch has. Number two, be concise. I've seen people, if you ask them to pitch their business, it would probably take them 5 minutes to sell you for you to know what it is that you're doing. Whereas we've just talked and I gave you pretty much a 30-second intro on the consumer and business side, and you're like, okay, I understand why that's a big problem. The way that you communicate it needs to be concise, but it needs to just cut through a lot of that fluff and gray and like big words. I don't think you should ever focus on crafting a pitch that's longer than 5 minutes. Because in this attention-driven economy that we're in right now, an investor will only literally pay attention in the first 5 minutes to decide whether they're going to pay attention for the next 25. Because these pitches are typically, it's a 30-minute call, but you give me a pitch and then I ask you questions. And if you just blow that first 5 minutes of the call, I'm not even listening anymore. And so that conciseness is, I think, what is one of the components of a successful pitch. And the last one I will say is, just know your stuff. I think there is a beauty to industry expertise. There's also a beauty to being very good at the craft you've chosen. I don't think any entrepreneur that has not built a solution within a particular industry can just say that, if no one is focusing on this, I'm going to go ahead and dive in. You can do that, but what will happen is maybe the person who chose to study, be in a company that's doing that particular thing, and then start the business, is probably going to take a shorter time than you. So achieving success in a pitch also comes from, if most of the times when I've been in these kind of like meetings and conversations, I'm asked very hard questions. Like, so David, like how will your solution pretty much also, if you guys are giving access to, let's say, faster settlements, faster payments, so it's basically you're building a clearing network, how do you actually solve for the problem of default risk or inherent liquidity risk? Or how are you thinking about inflation when it comes to like storing actual liquidity locally? And I think if you don't have substance, you'll be asked that question and say, oh, I mean, we'll just figure it out. Oh, it's not really a big problem.
Yeah.
And
You cannot figure it out with
no,
someone's
you
money.
cannot.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah.
and you always have to realize, if that answer is a yes, you then become a custodian of someone else's money. I think entrepreneurs forget that they are a type of wealth manager. So your pitch can be great. They'll say, yes, we're in. Okay, now that the money is in, that's where the work starts.
True.
And I find people also forget to think about that end goal.
Oh,
knowing
once you get the money.
Exactly.
Because
Once
when
you
you
get
pitch,
the
you're
money.
not sure it's going to come.
No. And then the last thing I will say is just the pitching never stops. When I get in a room like this, I'm selling to you our vision. When I'm in a meeting with an investor, I'm selling the vision. If someone comes, walks up to me, asks, what is it that you guys do? I always love telling that story. And it's because it refines it.
It refines the pitch.
Yes, it refines the pitch, refines you as well. It brings clarity. And as long as you are consistently, you understand that this will be your journey, this will be what you do, I think it's amazing because that then gives you the peace, but then also the focus to know that I'm going to pitch today and someone is going to ask me to pitch again. And I'm probably going to speak to 200 investors to close 20. But when I do close them, I will continue to pitch and refine, that improvement will not go unnoticed.
Interesting. And there's also this, because I know it's one of the questions most entrepreneurs, or the biggest challenge most entrepreneurs face is capital, right?
Yes.
And then the presumption is that once capital comes, what's it called? Let's say I'm selling my shares, this is going to be my money.
Oh dear.
I get that a lot.
Yes.
Break down to me. So you've received probably $1 million.
Yeah.
As a founder,
yes.
How do you spread this money, and how, in terms of now weighing the return to the investor? How do you go about it? What are the intricacies of this?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. And you're right, it's a big misconception. And we've seen this go actually very wrong in that you have founders who raise $500,000. Now he's driving a Mercedes. He's now in Kileleshwa. He used to be in I don't know where. And that's horribly wrong because I think that governance and kind of integrity is so important for an entrepreneur, because what you don't understand is this world is so much smaller than you think, and especially this industry. So what happens, I'll actually walk you through the process of pitching, closing, and then now actually managing a venture capital investment. So when you close a VC, that's a venture capitalist, they'll say, David, we love the business, we're going to invest 500K. The first thing that you want to do is decide what type of investment that would be. So there's different ones. You could go for a convertible note, which is like debt that converts into equity. The most common and the best recommended way to raise money as a startup is this thing called a SAFE. So it's a standard agreement for future equity. And it was started by this company called YC, where they're pretty much the ones who pioneered it. And the reason people love it is it's a very simple agreement that basically says, as a VC, I'm going to give you $500,000 at a $10 million valuation. You're not at $10 million right now. But what I am saying is, if I divide the value of the money I'm giving you to the valuation that I'll be getting back, I basically want to own 5% of your company for $500,000 at a $10 million valuation. And then now what happens is, the money is in. You now need to build the business to get it there. What happens once you get it there is typically for VC type businesses, you have to either keep raising or raise some element of liquidity so that you can scale into the valuation, because that VC is waiting for you to raise more money so that their shares convert. And the SAFE is not actual equity. What happens when you now raise another round is their equity gets priced, but they can't actually withdraw it. They can withdraw it as a secondary investment, meaning, let's say I gave you 500K, someone new came in and said they're giving you $10 million. So what I'll do is I'll sell them my shares, a portion of it, and I'll get that money from them. But the money...
But on the valuation that you initially give?
No, on the future one.
On the future valuation.
So what typically happens, if I raise $500,000 at $10 million, at a $10 million valuation, the next time I raise, I will need to actually raise at a higher valuation. You never go down. You go down if the business is not doing well. But the ideal scenario is that you're actually, going up in valuation. And now, of course, once the money is in, it's not your money. And I think as an entrepreneur, you have to, I don't think you should start a business if you're relying on it to be your liquidity.
So you must have another source.
You have to have another source starting out. Some people don't have that option, but I think it's just so much harder if you are putting all your eggs in this basket when you don't even have a basket with eggs on the side. And what I mean by that is, I look at my journey. I didn't take a salary for, I think, about 2 years starting Honeycoin. And even when I did start to draw on a salary, it was not even a consistent one. Like I would say, okay, this is what my expenses are, and I'll only take a nominal amount. Because the most valuable thing I'm holding is the largest amount of equity in this business that went from being zero in value to now worth millions of dollars.
True.
And I think the thing investors also look for is that, because you never want someone who they say, yeah, sure, please invest, but once you invest, the money now is just, oh yeah, we had to invest in R&D in Italy. No, you are just going for vacation. Or we had to buy a company car, but it's a G-Wagon. Those things are things to avoid. And I think investors also go for someone who they see as not a flight risk. So never think you can raise money as an entrepreneur because you coming from the bootstraps and you want to build this business. It's very funny, and I tell people this all the time. I actually almost went bankrupt in starting Honeycoin because a lot of initially it was just me putting in my own money.
You're putting in your money,
and you're not seeing the returns, but you are trusting in the process. And so if you don't even have that comfortability to say, listen, if this goes bust, I'm okay. I'll start from zero and I'll build again. And that kind of clarity of mind and also understanding that you are a custodian of this money is, I think, very crucial.
That's very interesting. My goodness. Time is literally running out. I think we'll need to do a part 2. But before we get to end, I know there's so much that we've actually learned about investment, about pitching, about raising funds. There's so much. I think we'll do a part 2.
Okay.
But for the value of time, I like having quick fire questions. Let's just break it down now.
Yes.
So I'll have like around 10 questions. So I'll just be asking you quick fire questions.
Go for it.
When it comes to mind, you go through it.
Okay.
So what's the greatest risk you've ever taken?
Investing basically all my wealth in Honeycoin.
What's your favorite month?
June.
I thought you would say February because in February.
No, June
so
is my birth
14th
month.
is empty.
It's my birth month and I love it because it's in the middle of the year.
June.
Yeah, June.
Interesting. Which is your favorite word?
Favorite word? Oh, that's a tough one. I will say, one that's really up there.
I thought it would be calling people honey.
No. No, one of my favorite words is consistency. I love that word. It's just, it applies to everything. It's like a magical word,
Another interesting question. Describe your style in one word.
Describe your style in one word. It is uncompromising. I don't mold myself towards any, let's call it societal standards, but I'm also not foreboding. I'm not going to be controversial, but I also will dress in a way that I'm comfortable. And I will not conform to, oh, now I'm a CEO, now the company is valuable, suit and tie.
Suit and tie, suit and tie is just a song.
Exactly.
Now my suit and tie.
No, unfortunately not.
You don't know that song?
I don't know that song.
Oh my goodness, that's why I'm old. Just Justin Timberlake, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All right, interesting. What's been your favorite age so far?
Favorite age so far? Oh, I think my favorite age so far,
2.
I'll say 16.
Yeah? 16?
And I'll say,
16?
I'll say 16 because I had a lot of clarity and life was very simple and I was extremely focused. I'm still focused now, but I feel like that's the pivotal year because I was taken out of what is comfortable. I'm in a strange country and
that's in Dar es Salaam.
And I had to really, let's call it soul search and just know this is who I am, this is what I want. And so 16 was that year.
Interesting. What's your hidden talent?
My hidden talent, oh gosh, hidden talent. So this is an unorthodox one, but I can basically hear a tone and whistle the exact tone in the same key, just on the fly.
You can?
Like, so let's assume you hear a song or you hear a whistle. I can whistle in the same key as the sound I just heard.
So you can try it?
Well, I wouldn't try it live. It would just look
weird.
Try it.
But
we can. It's hidden. Hidden talent is the one you just do,
It's not on plain
hidden talent is the one you do in the car. Oh, you just with someone else.
I wanted to try to sing, but you've refused.
It's okay.
I understand I have a good voice, but I'm like, nah. And then
fine.
Final question, money or happiness?
Oh, that's a good one. I will say money. And I'll tell you why I say money. I think that what money does, and what I've noticed, is you can be the happiest family. And if you are in poverty, your happiness is constantly weighed down by life. And that happiness is amazing. But I think if you have money, you take away so many worries that would hold you down,
True.
that happiness is just ever more attainable. But I will say that money, and I've realized this over time, money will never bring you any amount of satisfaction that the intrinsic things of life will do. And that is relationships, that is faith,
True.
and that is also just experiences.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of money is it helps you to take care of all of those things. And I'll explain how with money I can take care of the people I love, I can take care of myself,
True.
I can plan for my family. Experiences, I can experience the world so much more than someone who's never able to even leave their own country.
True.
And lastly, I think where faith applies in money is I think you have to have grounding principles around that, wealth that you have. And just the fact that those things can be covered just by way of having money. That's why I would say money over happiness.
Interesting.
Yeah,
and in my book, I have a quote around wealth and money. They say, poverty is not a badge of honor.
No,
Yeah,
it's not.
It's never really a badge of honor.
It isn't.
It's actually quite true. My goodness, time has really gone by so fast.
It
But I
has.
really enjoyed the conversation.
I have as
I think
well.
we need to do a part 2.
I'm also
and
thinking.
hopefully, we should do that. And hopefully we can actually do it. Because as we end the show on April 4th, we're holding a masterclass with Michael Joseph. Hope we can have Honeycoin on board. And this is an opportunity for you as an audience to actually come on board and just be part of such conversations. I personally enjoy them because you get to learn quite a lot.
Yes.
I've really enjoyed a lot from Nandwa, and I've really enjoyed this particular conversation. You can check Honeycoin out across all social media platforms. You can actually reach out on them and get to exploit it. I've really enjoyed this conversation. So if someone was done all this at 22, so for you at 22, what exactly are you doing? No excuse at all. Should just be eating honeys and talking about honeys. It should be more about your honey. But I really enjoyed this conversation. As always, my name is Ian Dennis. We're coming to you live from the Capital Club, the place you need to be. Within the Capital Club, you're exposed to a wide network. As we always say, your network is your network. And then at the Capital Club, you're able to do that. And also, get my book. I'm actually trying to push it. It's called Food for Thought. It's about quotes. Primarily, I've also been doing it since I think I was like 16, around different aspects of life. Money and wealth, employment, religion, normal wisdom. You actually need to get about it. My first book, All the Business Conquest, is about just an entrepreneurial journey of Kenyans who have actually done it and giving out lessons, because I'm also a business coach. Until next time, I'll see you right here on the Late Night Business. Take care. See you next time. Bye-bye.